smiling, when you're smiling, the whole world smiles with you. When you're laughing, oh, when you're laughing, the sun comes shining through. When you're crying, you bring out the rain, so stop your sighing.
I'm gonna let this go for a minute. It's just good to be back. What a terrible air drum fill. Hello everybody. It's your favorite American Leicester City podcaster, Mike, back in my normal setup, finally. And I just want to, again, unfortunately, start with a little bit of a somber introduction. Obviously, there were scarves given out at this game to honor Kun Vichai. So I'm going to, again, attempt to play this chant. I tried on my last stream, and it was really bad sound quality. Oh, man. One day, I'll hear this in the stadium. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. And I'm hoping that we have successfully honored Kun Vichai's memory in all that's gone on this week. Again, thoughts go out to all that were lost in terrible tragedy that took place that day in 2018. And I think we are doing the best we can as a fan group to keep his dream alive by just supporting this team through thick and thin. And right now it seems we're in a little bit of a nice spell, so let's keep the good vibes rolling in terms of what Enzo Maresca has started. And let's get into QPR away. Again, thank you for watching. If you are, it's been a little while since I've been in my normal setup here, and I'm glad to be back in the normal digs. So we're going to get into the lineups. Now, there's a couple obvious changes here that stand out. You have Hamza Chowdhury, who was the inverted fullback this game, and you had Connor Cody, who is in the Wout Faes role, if you will. And it was interesting, and we'll get into it. It definitely could have been better, but we'll get into that. And then looking at QPR, we were looking at signing Ilyas Char this summer. Didn't end up getting him, but we all knew that he was quality. We knew that he was one of the best providers in this league. And I've heard of Lyndon Dykes. Now, I don't know exactly what he's been up to lately, but you know, I'm what you would call a fairly informed footy fan in America. I don't get the championship normally, really at all, honestly. So I can't really follow those games too well, and this is my first time really delving into the championship. So I'm not very familiar with some of these teams, and definitely a lot of their lineups. So, but if I know someone's name, they must have either spent time in the Premier League or had their name said a lot in commentary. But I definitely have heard Lyndon Dykes' name before and knew that he had somewhat of a part to play in this game. And there goes SofaScore reloading on me because it's a quality website. Oh my goodness, the things that SofaScore does. And Asmir Begovic I wanted to bring up as well, because I believe he has faced us a myriad of times before on different teams. So again, just for me, if I'm recognizing some of the names on these championship teams that I'm not overly familiar with, maybe teams that weren't steady Premier League teams and then maybe came up or went down during the 2014 to current, because that's basically when I started following soccer or footy. Sorry, don't condemn me. So yeah, I knew some of these guys, which was not expected for me. Most of these teams, I'm like, who, what, who's that guy? But I had some names to look out for, and man, it's a tough game. This is a tough game, and I think we all knew as fans, looking at Leicester's form and looking at QPR's form, that this is one of those games where, especially the last couple years, I mean, let's be real here. Under you know who, I don't even want to say this dude's name anymore. And shout out to Diego Simeone, who I'm sure is a big fan of the Fellow Foxes podcast. Shout out to you, one-upping him at the handshake. Now, I know that you're maybe not a fan of handshakes, as it were, in general, but if there was ever someone that needed one-upping at full time, definitely him. Anyway, yeah, it's I honestly, I'm so worked up with emotion here that no, I was saying that 2 years ago, the past 2 years, this kind of game would have been you could have just put in the loss. You don't know exactly how it's going to come, but you knew it was going to happen. It just, the form table was so opposite, and it was like the form gods needed to deal a cruel joke out to Leicester City. And it looked like that was going to be the case for large parts of this game. The players seemed off. They weren't really making incisive passes. I mean, even early on, I know Mavididi scored, what was it, in the 30th minute. Before that, I mean, I have so many notes of KDH, Mav off, Hamza out of his depth. I mean, so many just little ticker tape moments that this team was not doing what they normally do, at least have done for large stretches of this season, barring good performances by the opposition. But it seemed up until his goal, they just weren't making the incisive pass, if you know what I mean. The incisive, after they've worked it back and forth in the midfield, that pass to one of those eights, Dewsbury, Haller, and Ndidi normally most of the season, and now Kazade, who's filling in for Ndidi quite well, I might add. Thank goodness that he's starting to come into his own. But yeah, it seemed like they weren't making those passes in the first half. And then, of course, we have the Mavididi goal. I believe it was heavily deflected, which sent the goalie kind of spiraling and not really sure exactly where to take himself. And again, it's an example of Leicester City's individual quality shining through in a moment that maybe doesn't deserve it. I don't know if that's the right way to put it. But they didn't seem like they were going to be scoring anytime soon. I mean, credit to QPR. They are sitting second from bottom, and they gave us a solid defensive setup. I don't know if our last game really kind of set a blueprint for everyone on how to start to defend against us and frustrate us, or if it's just the Leicester City factor in terms of what it means to QPR. You know, you have the league leaders coming here, coming to their stadium. They're sitting second from bottom. What do they have to lose trying to give us a game? The worst thing that can happen is they'll lose, which they've been doing a lot of anyway. So I don't think their fan base would freak out if they played hard and tried to beat us, which they did. and their reward, the risk is they lose to us, and the reward is they give us a hard fought game and either draw or win the game, and that's that's basically how they approached it, in my opinion. They couldn't lose in a way, and QPR responded pretty quickly, and a lot of fans saw it coming. I don't know what happened with Leicester City after they scored. It seemed like QPR had been holding on up until our goal pretty well, and making some forward runs, but not really connecting. And then come this goal, it was obvious that, come our goal, they decided they were not having it anymore, and they went hard for it, and they got it. I don't want to say it was overly deserved. I think, Mads Hermansen and Hamza made some, I think it was like a dual clearance. I don't know who exactly cleared it off the line. And you would have liked to have seen, I like the dedication by them, but I don't know if maybe Hamza needs to be there. I don't know if he is keeping Mads from getting back up and saving that second one anyway. They equalize about, I want to say, where was it? 40th minute, 41st minute. And then to end the half, it seemed like we were a little rattled. It seemed like Leicester, what's the right way to put this? It seemed like after they scored, they felt like they were going to win no matter what, because that's pretty much what happened most of this season. And it just, QBR weren't going to let us off like that, and credit to them. They put in a hard shift, and your normal Leicester City fan who pays attention to what happens to this team knew that this game was going to be tough. There was no way that this game was going to be 6 or 7-0. And I honestly thought that there were going to be more changes in this game. Maybe not goalkeeper like that deep, but definitely thought more outfield players would be rested or sat. I mean, for my part, I thought Dewsbury Hall and Winks would be sat this game to make sure that they didn't need to take any tactical fouls for this game, because we have Leeds next week. But yeah, we got through the first half, came out even, and unfortunately, it seemed like the form that ended the first half continued right into the second half, and it seemed to be, again, something that I know I've talked about with Neil many a time, and Anil on Beyond the 90. It seemed like they came out slow to start the second half, and it seemed like Enzo had been addressing that, because for maybe 2 out of the 3 previous games we played, they weren't that. They might have not started it blazing, but they didn't come out slow. It seemed like they came out fairly slow at the start of the second half. QPR were confident, and why wouldn't they be? They just scored an equalizer against the league leaders, who are setting a record. Literally every win that Leicester gets from this point on is another record, in terms of win streaks or away wins, or just points records in the championship in general. Everything that they're doing at this point is a record. So QPR really, I mean, you have to understand sports psychology. That is the ultimate motivation for a team that has nothing going for them, is, that camaraderie that they're trying to foster, rallying against a common enemy, which is us. They're struggling to find something to build on. And even though they didn't get anything from this game, I still think if you watch QPR going forward from this season, I bet you they build on this. I bet you Gareth Ainsworth uses this as an opportunity to say, look at these things that work so well against this team that's running away with the league. We can do this to other teams, and they're not going to be as good. whether it be tactical or just effort-wise, mentality-wise, telling them to tap into what they tapped into this game. But yeah, they came out very confident. It seemed Leicester were struggling to find the passing lanes in the second half. And then, I'll just look in my notes here. They mentioned Fatawu a lot. And credit to the kid. I mean, God bless him. He looks like a player. I cannot wait to see if Maresca stays on for a decent amount of time, and what this young man can turn into under Enzo Maresca and his guidance and his tutelage, so to speak. But then we had the game-changing moment in, where is this? I don't know where. I need to write my notes bigger. Where is it? I'm trying to find where the red card was. Well, I don't remember exactly where it was. Yeah, this is aggravating. Oh, I need to take a second, and it's definitely here. I wrote it down. There's no way I didn't. Where is it? Well, I know I wrote it down, but there was a red card in the second half, and it was Abdul Fatawu was very, very smart in how he conducted himself on the field. He was running past players with ease, by the way. Let's just bring that up. He was absolutely on fire. Abdul, what a performance. I think he had shrugged off two players at that point and was going for a third, and the third guy wrapped his arm on him, just pulled him down. So that was a yellow. And then Fatawu got up and shoved him. Now, there's a debate whether or not Fatawu just gets a yellow there, because that could be unsportsmanlike, could be, it's more a retaliation, which is normally a yellow. But either way, he got a yellow. But thankfully, Andre Dazel, I don't know if I said his name right. He pushed Fatawu back after Fatawu shoved him. And Fatawu, to his credit, being very mature, doing his best La Liga audition, by the way, just dropped to the ground like he had just been given, an injection of propofol or something. Just absolutely collapsed. And that caused the ref to then, in the end, issue a second yellow card and send him off. Now, from that point on, you figured Leicester City were going to boss this game. But what does Gareth Ainsworth do? He sets his team up in a 5-3-1, I believe it was. And he said, all right, they're going to give us a red card. I'm just going to absolutely kill this game. And to his credit, worked for a long period of time. And we struggled. Leicester struggled a lot to break them down, which is not too encouraging, I have to say. Now, it could have been the personnel in the field. I have to mention, I don't think Hamza Chowdhury covered himself in a glory today. Not everyone was on. I mean, even Dewsbury Hall, who is normally incredible in every game, he was doing a lot of this, getting the ball and then turning around and doing this little semicircle immediately when no one was around him, and it was killing the play. And then you could see him, with his hands all the time when people weren't passing the ball. I hope he's not drinking his own Kool-Aid, because he is extremely talented, but he needs to cool it. He needs to he needs to just remember that he's part of a team and they have a goal. And I'm not saying he he actually is. It just seemed in the game that he was getting very frustrated for whatever reason it may be. But yeah, we really struggled to break them down. And it came to the 80th minute that Harry Winks curls it finally. And, you know, he's deserved this. He's worked really, really hard. He's been the quarterback of the offense for pretty much the entire season, especially these home games where you have people come in and park the bus. It's always him on the ball most of the time, even dropping back into, a couple of games I've seen him in the left back position, just wanting to get on the ball and wanting to be that deep so he can see the whole field and see how to progress the play. But he finally, I hope he's been doing some shooting practice and it paid off. He curled that ball right into the top right corner and gave us the advantage once again. And I'm very, very happy for him. And I'm glad that he got some recognition with the goal, given all the other hard work that he's done and what he's done to get us to where we are so far. Yeah, so that was, we had some subs not too long. Right after we scored that goal, by the way, it seemed QPR picked themselves up and they were very intense. They were decent chances wasted once QPR opened up after that. It seemed like Leicester had more. Obviously, once they started losing, they needed to open up, and then that was the time to finish them off. And it seems like the players on the field, including Kelechi Iheanacho, who, given his amazing skill, you're almost learning to give him the benefit of the doubt when he starts doing stuff like this. But these little intricate little dribbles he's trying to do and drag backs and holding three people off while controlling the ball, it sometimes it's called for and sometimes it's not. And we've tried to give him the benefit of the doubt considering how good he's been, but it seemed like this was not the game to do that because they were real intense at the end of the game, especially after Winks scored. McAteer and Albrighton came on, which it seemed like at that point it was like, get the ball to Albrighton, he will early cross the ball, and because he's one of the best crossers we've ever seen. Of course, they couldn't capitalize on it. I even wrote, again, Kell, too casual. He really needed to keep his head on a swivel and not get so into his play. And then out of nowhere, maybe it was for the scrap, so to speak. The ref adds 7 minutes of extra time, which seems a little excessive to me, but whatever. And that was the point where we started really annoying QPR, and that was very, very nerve-wracking at times because we did not have a third goal to have a buffer for what would happen if we screwed up, which we almost did a couple of times. And it was hearts and mouths moments for all the fan base, and I'm sure the coaching staff and the players on the bench, all the fans in the stadium, which, by the way, they looked like they were having a great time. All Leicester fans that were at the game, I'm so jealous of you. What a great time that must have been. But in the end, Leicester City get it done, despite the chaos that was taking place at the end of the game. I wrote an article for Foxes of Leicester on Twitter, all one word, and we're going to take a short break, and I'm just going to give you a preview of what that article was about and maybe some final thoughts for this game. But we are going to take a small break here and be right back to the Fellow Foxes podcast.
When you're crying, you bring on the rain, so stop sighing.
And we're back, and we are all smiling as Leicester fans because Leicester City again pulled off another record. I think this was our 9th straight league victory. I'm sure it's a new away win record for the club, because I'm sure the last away win was a record as well. So I think it's up to 7 or 8 straight away wins. I can't remember. But that's why I said earlier, everything that we're doing at this point is setting a record, which is not to sound like full of ourselves, but I mean that's what's happening, because of where the records have been and how good this team should not be in this division. I think we all know that. That's why I've ranted many a time about Brendan Rodgers. That's why I was so happy Diego Simeone just kind of stood him up, because he is the reason that we are here. But anyway, on a roll, Leicester City in the championship. Just some the players that I thought were my top 3 players of this match. I'm not going to give you the reasons. If you want to see my reasoning, please go over to Foxes of Leicester on Twitter, and I'm a contributor for them at LCFC Op-Eds. It should be right here on the screen. There it is. And you can read the article for yourself and read why I picked these 3. But I picked Fatawu, Mavididi, and Harry Winks in ascending. So 3rd, 2nd, 1st. And again, go to Foxes of Leicester on Twitter to see that article, or my Twitter, LCFC Op-Eds. And just some final thoughts for you on this match. We really struggled for large parts of this game. There's no way around that. It definitely was not the most encouraging performance that we've had. We need to. I think Enzo is going to have a hard look at this in the film room and really do some dissecting on the tactics that are coming up against us. There's 2 games in a row that we've really struggled against opponents. Their press has been very effective early in the season. And even maybe the first 6 to 8 games, there were large parts of the game where we would draw the opponent onto us, and we would have these amazing flows of passing that would end up with a one-on-one chance with the goalie. It's not really happening anymore. And for whatever reason that is, I don't know if, again, we had, I know this is really bad that I cannot remember off the top of my head who the last game was. Sunderland. Okay. So, we had Hull City, who obviously beat us. It's the only not win of this season. And I don't know if Sunderland took a page out of their book. I know Huddersfield was the one that played us man-to-man. And if you listen to Enzo Maresca in his post-match press conference about Sunderland, he said they played us man-to-man, and that's really difficult for us to cope with. Now, I'm sure he says that in full recognition that they have a very specific plan to deal with it, but it's one thing to have a plan, another thing to execute it. But regardless, we were definitely struggling today, and it seems like QPR just had sound tactics. For everyone we want to say about their manager, and I watch the Second Tier pod, very informative. Being an American, I don't really have much championship knowledge, and I obviously can't watch any of the games, considering I had to pay what I had to pay for the Foxes membership, which was worth it. I'm just trying to say that I don't get access to many championship games, so having a comprehensive podcast review all the games is very, very beneficial to me. So if you don't yet enjoy their podcast, please go to the Second Tier pod on Twitter, and I'm pretty sure it's on YouTube. It's like the Second Tier podcast, and look it up. They do a great job. Very entertaining, funny, and again, just all around well produced. Yeah, we seem to have had 2 successive opponents that have made it really difficult for us to play our game. So there might be a blueprint, as it were, of how to play against us forming. Now, again, you have to have the players to pull it off, but you wouldn't think that QPR being on, 8 points this season, something like that, would have had the players to pull it off given where they are so far. Now, I don't know if that's because of their coach and maybe his tactics haven't been great all season and maybe they're starting to come into something. I don't know. But you wouldn't think that if there was going to be a team that would be able to replicate some kind of blueprint that's been laid out, that it would be them. But again, you have to factor in the whole us against the world thing that you get facing the league leaders, etc. So overall, this is one of our lesser performances, and I really think that, unfortunately, and I'm not saying he can't get better, but I think Hamza Chowdhury is out of his depth in the hybrid fullback role. I don't think he is as silky as you need to be in that position. If you look at what happened when Ricardo came on, the ball moved a lot better. And there's no doubt about that. So I'm glad Enzo is giving him a chance. I'm glad Enzo is giving Ricardo a rest because, he's had injury problems. He's not old by any means, but he's not young either. He's like right in the almost post-prime of his career. But with the injuries he's had, he is more like, maybe a year or two further down that line in terms of how his body holds up. But yeah, it definitely seemed like Hamza was the wrench in the gears of Leicester City multiple times. I wrote it at least 3 or 4 times in my notes that it seemed like he was out of his depth and he really didn't understand what to do in this system. It seemed like he was making these like broad cross-field passes that were not, people weren't even ready for or wasn't part of like what they're trying to do, but he just, he wanted to get the ball as far away, whatever it could be. It just didn't seem like he was comfortable doing this, carrying the ball, which if we've seen Ricardo do many times, I want to say it's more Ricardo that carries the ball than Winks up the field a lot of the time. It's hard to say. I would have to really go back and watch all the games, which I can't. But I've definitely seen Ricardo advance play up the field multiple times, which Hamza did not do. So yeah, he's got to get back to the training pitch and get back in the film room and figure out what he's trying to do in this team. He's a great servant. He works hard. He's great defensively. I mean, if there's someone to put in a snapping slide tackle, there's no one better in the squad. But when it comes to intricate tiki-taka passing and, ball retention, Hamza Chowdhury is not the first person on the list that you would throw into this lineup. But we won, so I don't want to ride him too hard, so to speak. But he definitely did not. He was like the puzzle, the unfitting puzzle piece today. I don't think Cody was great either. I think that he was really slow releasing the ball a lot of the time. There was a pass on in the middle of the field to either Winks or Kazadeh or Dewsbury Hall, and he just took one too many touches, especially if the ball was like moved to his side of the field quickly and it relied on him being on that outside and passing into the middle. It seemed like he just couldn't settle the ball or he couldn't get the ball out of his feet or something. But hopefully, he will grow into it as he plays more in the offense. And I understand why Enzo thought this might be the game for that. Like I said, I thought Enzo was going to rest Winks and Dewsbury Hall because they were both on 4 yellow cards, and I didn't want them to miss the game for Leeds. just taken some stupid tactical foul in this game. So, yeah, Hams, I'm sure, will get better, but just something that was pretty glaring today. It seemed like most of the team was off the pace in general. I don't want to. I mean, there was obviously a few standouts. Mavididi looked good for short spells. Wasn't the best decision maker, it seemed like. James Dustin didn't look great. Vestergaard still is a mainstay. I mean, he doesn't, we're not really asking a ton of him, to be honest. And I love the guy. Trust me, I've defended him all season. I think he's a great player and how he's recovered from how he's been treated. But yeah, he definitely is one of the few players that had a performance that you expect. Dewsbury Hall didn't seem right. Jamie Vardy really didn't do anything in this game, and I mean literally anything. It was crazy. He must have had I don't know, maybe 20 or 30 touches the whole game. I can't imagine. He barely touched the ball. It was all the wingers this game. Fatawu really stood out again, as I've said. So yeah, it was a lot of 6s and 7s today. And again, Harry Winks, my man of the match, the goal finally, and the recognition that I think he deserves. That will, my opinion, probably send him on to another level this season. So that is it, everyone. Thank you for watching. It's good to be back in the normal setup here. Lost it. It's good to be back in the normal podcasting room with the normal microphone and everything. But it's good to know that I can also go mobile if I have to and get it done when need be. But we will be back, I believe, on probably not Friday, probably on Saturday, since Leicester play Leeds on Friday. It's too late for y'all in England that watch this. It'll come out at 10 o'clock at night when everyone's going to sleep. So probably Saturday for a Leeds United reaction. And hopefully we'll be talking about another record-setting Leicester City win. Until then, all you fellow Foxes, be well and up the boys.
When you're smiling, when you're smiling.